We are the Brutal, Bizarre, and Boozy podcast. I'm Declan, the son.
And I'm Jane, the mom. This is the podcast where we talk about brutal crimes like serial killers and the random one-off murder. We will tell you about bizarre occurrences like alien abductions and monsters in the dark. And we just might get you drunk with cocktails themed around one of our stories.
At the very end of every show, we like to lighten things up and cleanse the palate from the tragic and terrifying stories, so we end our time with a chaser. You might get to hear crazy stories about our pets or just silly movie recommendations.
Give us a listen. We are the Brutal, Bizarre, and Boozy podcast.
Welcome to the Oddity Shop, where the bizarre is always on sale.
Hey, and welcome back to the Oddity Shop. I'm Kara, and this is...
Zach.
Did you have to think about your name?
I just thought you were going to introduce me, so I wasn't ready to talk yet. But yes, I did think about my name.
Okay.
Oh, we're doing great here, guys.
We're doing great.
Thanks for coming back and dealing with us, or if you're new here, get ready. We're shit shows trying to put our life together and do a podcast.
If you come back, is it dealing with us, though?
They're choosing to deal with us. Well, anyways, welcome back.
Yes, welcome. What you got for me?
Let's see. Okay, last week I talked about the website, and I just can't stop with social media. Me and Kara are now also on, finally, TikTok. So you might be seeing us on your For You page. Check out Oddity Shop Podcast on TikTok if you want to. Kara's so excited.
Listen, I personally don't have a TikTok.
Which I have to call you out, man. 3 years without downloading TikTok. I'm kind of proud of you.
Well, and everyone was like, how did you not download it during like the lockup and pandemic? And I'm like, well, I just didn't want to get sucked in and be addicted to it like the rest of the world.
Did you just call it a lockup? Like we were in jail, the lockdown?
Well, I was locked up in the house.
when you had your prison phone. I think you have something for me, though. Kara's mom has Lynn.
Oh. Let
us know we have a little...
Well,
I'll let
here's
Kara
the thing.
tell us.
It's a correction, but here's the thing. When I said it on our episode, I knew I messed up, but I just kept rolling with it because I'm like, I didn't think it really mattered. What episode was it? I don't even know what episode it was. We were talking about my birthday and what we did, and... First off, Lynn got a little bit bitter because we were talking about going out to dinner and we didn't mention her, which, Lynn, come on now. She just hasn't listened to all the episodes. We'd be talking about her. Anyway, so she was like, but I was laughing because we were talking about Aunt Pat and Zach leaving with Aunt Pat. And we were talking about how good she looks and like just her. And I said she's 82 years old. And when I said it, I'm like, that's wrong. But we said that she told us her age was like 52. And so I think the two stuck, but she's really 87.
Which is even more impressive.
Well, that was the point, is my mom's like, but you guys were talking about her and it's 82 to 87 it's a big difference. So like just, that was our little correction.
So if you saw her and the pictures we posted, make sure you comment and tell her how good she looks for 87.
She's a beaut.
What else is going on with you?
I got new rings and I don't know if maybe you can see them. But I'm not going to show my fingers because I don't want people to see my fingers. I hate them. But I got this. Do you see it? It's like a little moon with
that's cute.
A crystal.
Yeah.
And then this one is, I'm just going to take them all off for you. This is the Moon Tarot card.
Oh, that's really cute.
I know. And then this is another little crystal.
Fun.
Yeah, they're from I think it's Pura Vida. I think that's how you say it.
Sounds familiar.
Yeah, they're everywhere. It's all over our ads. But I'm like, okay, they're like cute. So I've been wearing them every day and making myself feel good. That's about all I got. That's all the feel goods I got over here.
I'm not ordering rings, but I had packages start showing up today from Target and Home Depot because I'm finally remodeling my bathroom and it needs it. I mean, so it's cute, but the way it was remodeled from the past owners, they like painted the cabinet. You know, it wasn't a new cabinet. Yep. And they put in really cheap flooring that is now starting to come up because they put floating floor on top of uneven floor. So we're about to start ripping that all out. And but yeah, no, so the vanity should be here this week. The mirror came today. We got the shower bar. It's gonna look great. It's gonna be like all black accent, a little bit of natural wood, some dark grays, and then a marble style flooring. Not real marble. I don't have that kind of money.
No, he sent me all your inspo. First off, I don't know why you like sent all this to me. You're like, I need your help right now. I thought you were dying. Something was happening. And then I'm looking, I get all these pictures of like the cabinet, floor, color.
I mean,
like,
you just
accent.
redid your whole house though. So it's like, I knew you would have good input.
I know, but I only saw the little banner or whatever of your text message. I didn't see the picture. So I thought you were dying. And then I'm like, what the hell?
Well, no,
like,
I knew it was like
it all looks great.
9:30 at night, which you go on Do Not Disturb. So if I didn't make it seem drastic, you wouldn't have responded to me until
No, this was in the morning. I was leaving for work.
Well, you probably got it the night before.
No.
Whatever.
Let me check the receipts.
I have a question for you, but this isn't like a yes or no. You have to think
they
about
never
this one.
are.
Tell me about the creepiest phone call you've ever received.
Okay. I know this is where this is going, and I can't tell you what I would love to tell you on the podcast because I don't want to upset anybody and I don't know who listens to this and it's a touchy subject, but I already told this to you. So I know this is where this is going.
But I want to hear about the one that you've received. I don't care if it's paranormal or not. Just creepiest phone call.
I know that I got like weird people calling me in high school, but I can't remember like what. Oh, okay. This sticks into my head, but I don't think it's creepy. Well, it kind of is. All right. So I don't even know these people's names anymore. No idea what these people's names are. I was a freshman. I worked at a store. It was called Rave, and it was in Macomb Mall when I was 16. And this girl that I worked with, I didn't know her until I started working there. And she was a senior. So it was like prom time. And anyways, she was like, I have my boyfriend's friend has no date. Do you want to go to prom? But I'm a freshman and I'm like, what the hell? Like, this could be awkward. I'm like, sure, whatever. Like, chance to like get a dress, whatever, do my hair, blah, blah, blah. So I go. I couldn't even tell you about that day. I vividly remember taking pictures in somebody's front yard. That's literally about it. It was like a long blue ugly dress. I wonder if I could find that picture somewhere. Anyway, cut to like maybe a year later, I get this phone call and I vividly remember because I was like, I don't know who this is. And I remember that my mom and I were laying in her bed. We were like watching something. Actually, I think we were watching Ghost Stories. I get this phone call. You wanted the story.
It's so many details.
I know, but I had to give you the background. So I get this phone call and it's like these guys and they're like kind of like laughing and giggling and they're like, Kara? And I'm like, yeah, who is this? And he's like, I don't know, Josh, we'll just say. It's like, Josh. And I'm like, I don't know who you are. Like, because I had no idea. I mean, my mom was sitting in bed like, what the hell? Who the fuck is this? And he's like, I took you to prom. And I was like, oh, oops. Also, you're really old. Why are you calling me? It was weird because like, do guys do that outside of high school?
I don't understand straight men and their actions.
But this would have been like after graduation, like a year or two after.
That's very weird.
Isn't that weird? So it was creepy.
Okay.
So I hung up.
2-second story. I'm going to show you how to do one concisely and leave people wanting more.
Oh, shut up.
Freshman year of high school, homecoming, I asked a friend to go to homecoming with me, straight out of a movie. She said yes to me. Then a couple weeks later, her crush asked her, and she said yes to him and then didn't tell either of us, so she kept going to the bathroom.
Is this Missy?
No, I was at a different high school. This was freshman year, so I was at a completely different school. Sorry, thank God I wasn't there. I was only there for a semester, and I'm so happy about it. But yeah, no, like straight, like, and then I'm at one point I finally see her dancing with this other guy, and I'm like, what?
Oh.
I mean, joke's on her. I'm gay now, so it's not like
no.
I
I
was
was
too
say
bothered.
that's your gay origin story.
All right, though. So, are you ready for what we're talking about this week? You probably guessed it's going to have to deal with telephones, but we are talking about phone calls from beyond the grave.
I'm sweating already.
It is one where I was getting chills. While doing the research.
You text me and said you were getting chills while writing this, and I didn't know what it was about, and I was like, I don't want to know.
So I'm going to start with a story from Reddit. I did go to ask her for permission. However, when I clicked on her profile to ask her for permission, her bio literally says, if you're here because you want to use one of my paranormal true stories, go ahead. Please don't ask me.
So she must get a lot of people then that ask.
Oh yeah, there was like thousands of upvotes on it. But this is from Burning Grain 85 on Reddit.
Burning Grain?
Yes.
Okay.
My family has always been somewhat sensitive to the paranormal. More than a few of us have had unexplained instances, but nothing like what kept happening a few years back. The year was 2000, and while the world survived Y2K, unfortunately my great-grandmother did not. A few months after her death, every few days we would receive phone calls from a number caller ID said was 00000000000.
Okay, I don't remember caller IDs, but I do vaguely, but what did like 800 or spam come in as?
800. It would come in as the phone number. So the phone number was just zeros. Yep. Every time we picked it up, it was constant white noise, like a TV channel that didn't come in right. The first few times, we simply assumed something was going on with the phone lines and disregarded it. However, for whatever reason, we always picked it up. Now, most of you young ones on Reddit, the year 2000 was a different time. Cell phones were new, and most people had landlines still. The worst part was the fact that almost all of the internet was dial-up, meaning a simple phone call could interrupt the song you've spent the past 5 hours downloading on LimeWire.
The pain.
So obviously, these white noise calls became an annoyance very quickly. Finally, my mother called the phone company to see if they could find out where it was coming from. Once the company investigated the number, they discovered the calls were coming from a payphone. Not just any payphone. This payphone happened to be located right near the cemetery where we had just a few short months ago laid my granny to rest.
Granny!
Not only that, but the payphone was disconnected from use a couple years before and was not even capable of making phone calls.
What the actual...
This settles it for my family. We decided it was my granny, so every time the calls came, we simply spoke to her the same way we always had, and all was good. The calls continued for around 2 years.
I'm crying.
At this time, I lived in an area where tornadoes were rare, but when we had one, it tended to be incredibly damaging.
No, not the phone booth.
One night, one came through the neighborhood causing a lot of damage. However, my home was thankfully spared. Not long after it passed, the phone rang. This time, however, instead of white noise, my mother says that she hears somebody ask if everyone is okay. Mom reassures her we are all fine and everything is okay. After that, the calls stop, and we hope she's moved on to find peace, knowing that we're all safe.
Okay, I'm literally crying. Number one, all I kept thinking about for the longest time is the dial-up.
I knew you'd get stuck there.
Because, no, what I was thinking of is there was nothing better than curating a CD for somebody, something like an event, a drive, a get ready, something. You curated that CD, you spent time burning it and like whatever.
The mix CDs, man.
And then putting it in the little...
Hold on, before you do that though, you have to get your best Sharpie.
Well, yes, and you have to write all over it. You have to put the songs, the tracks, like hearts.
But not on the lines it gave you either. You went across the whole thing.
Yep. And then you put it in the little CD thing, and then you give it to whoever. Kids don't have that. What are you going to curate me a...
They don't even have disc drives anymore. Okay. Anyways.
All right. Moving on from that, though, because that upset me. But I thought that the phone booth was going to get taken out.
No, but there was actually an edit that a couple of years later too, and I didn't keep this whole thing in, but now I'm adding it, and then now I'm ad-libbing from what she had. But basically, she was dating this guy at the time that her whole family didn't like. They went to visit Granny's grave, and when they were visiting the grave, she got a call from her mom saying, "We just got another one of those phone calls," and they all chalked it up to Granny saying that she doesn't approve of the boyfriend.
That's hilarious.
Yes.
I wonder why Granny never said anything except for that one time. Maybe she didn't have the energy.
We'll get there. All right. So recently,
I can't.
These calls from beyond. You can't say you can't every time I talk about something spooky on a spooky podcast.
Yes, I can. It's my podcast. Ours. You guys half mine, so I can.
So Calls from Beyond the Grave are a little bit more popular right now, probably due to the fact that Stephen King just put out Mr. Harrigan's Phone, which is...
I don't know what that is.
Similar movie about calls from beyond the grave. I'll do it with the least amount of spoilers possible, but this kid who befriends an older gentleman who is kind of up there in age, but really, really wealthy, and for some reason he takes a liking to the kid. He passes, and some stuff starts happening for Beyond the Grave. That's where I'll leave it. But believe it or not, phone calls from those who have passed are actually fairly common and really, really well documented.
Do you feel the most powerful and beautiful with the elements of the earth around you? Do you like one-of-a-kind jewelry? Do you sometimes feel like a woodland fairy? Me too. That's why I created Holly and Hemlock, a magical shop filled with handmade wooden jewelry and metaphysical tools. Come check out our enchanting wooden wares at www.hollyhemlock.com and join us in honoring the magic and beauty of nature with each unique creation. That's www.hollyhemlock.com.
That was what I was referring to when I said I couldn't talk about the story that I really want to because I don't want to offend people. But yes, they are. And it's wild.
So a lot of times when you have something, right, that's kind of really famous, but might not be true, it happens like, it's documented in America, but this is actually documented all around the world. Reddit is full of literally thousands and thousands of these stories about people getting calls, emails, voicemails from beyond the dead. Or from people who have passed, right?
What's beyond the dead?
God only knows.
What is beyond
literally.
death?
I don't know what that is, but the next thing I have in my notes is, what is a call from beyond the grave? So, typically they happen within a few hours of the person's death. Although, like the story we told before, they can happen for quite some time after. They also take a great deal of energy to do this. So most of them are just static or a light voice that seems to dissipate, because it takes so much residual energy or energy from, your environment to actually make the calls go through. And the calls almost always go to somebody with whom the deceased was close with in life. Also, like the story above, they've been documented happening not only on live phone lines, but also ones that are completely disconnected. So there's a paranormal author named Steve Volk who wrote a book about these kind of like paranormal experiences. The book is called Fringeology, which now I really, really want to buy it. Fringeology. So he believes that these encounters suggest that there's a bond that exists between people who care very deeply for each other that goes beyond just physical and isn't extinguished by death. So he says whatever energy that created that bond still exists after that loved one is passed. And many paranormal investigators call this a crisis apparition, especially when it happens right next to when somebody's passing. It's usually due to like a burst of energy as that person is leaving the earth, or at least leaving their body, maybe not earth, and happens when death happens unexpectedly.
It happens when it happens.
It happens when it happens, and when it's unexpected, and it's a way for people to try to reach out and say goodbye to those that they loved. All right, are you ready for another story?
Crisis apparition.
This one's not written in first person, so it's not as heavy. Actually, it's still very heavy. But September 12th, 2008, 49-year-old Charles Peck is on his way from Salt Lake City to LA for a job interview. So he was trying to move to California to be with his fiance, who wanted them to live in the same state before tying the knot. The reason we're laughing is because you can't see this, but Kara is holding her crystals to her head because she doesn't want to hear the heavy story. Charles books a flight. He gets on a plane heading to LA. And when he lands, he gets on the Metrolink, which is a train. It's supposed to take him to its final stop over at Moore Park, where his fiancée, Andrea Katz, was going to pick him up.
Katz.
He was supposed to arrive at 4:45 p.m.
Ugh.
So Andrea's on her way to pick him up. She's listening to the radio, and a news update comes through about a train accident that's just occurred.
Oh, no.
So the train that Charles was riding on was being conducted by a man named Robert Sanchez.
Was he drunk?
Robert was texting a friend.
Okay.
As the train passed through Chatsworth, and he failed to stop at a signal telling him to stop.
Don't text and drive.
Especially a train.
Oh my God.
So this resulted in him merging from a double lane track into a single lane track where he collided head on with a freight train at a combined speed of 83 miles an hour.
Mm-mm.
It was not pretty.
Okay, so you're just going to pick up your fiance. You're super excited because he's moving here. You're going to live together before you tie the knot. And that's what you hear on the car radio?
Yeah.
No. Mm-mm.
So
Nope.
rightfully, Andrea starts to panic. At this point, she checks her phone. She realized then that she had a number of missed calls from Charles,
Oh.
all starting after the crash.
Okay, but this is sad because then she's thinking he's okay.
Exactly. So
I want to die.
she goes to the scene. She contacts his family, and there's rescue workers everywhere trying to go through the damage, see if anybody's still alive, rescue people, or unfortunately identify body. In the hours after the collision, Andrea and members of Charles' family receive a total of 35 calls from his phone as emergency services are going through the wreckage.
What?
Sometimes it was only static. Others thought they heard his voice. Most had hope that because of this, they would find him alive and that he was just too injured to really speak.
Okay, you said this one wasn't as heavy. This is worse because this whole family is 35 voicemails thinking that their loved one is alive and they need to go find him.
Not voicemails, calls. They're answering the calls.
That's what I meant. Calls. So they're thinking that he's alive. And
Sorry, I meant less heavy because it's not in first person. I was maybe wrong.
I would rather have Granny calling me telling me that she don't like my boyfriend.
Fair.
That made me cry.
Fair
that
enough.
was heartwarming. Yeah, fair enough.
So rescuers continued throughout the night. The calls finally stop 11 hours later at 3 a.m. The next day, medics find Charles' body. Unfortunately, he, along with at least 24 other people, lost their life in what remains one of the worst commuter train accidents in U.S. history. The wildest part, though, is that the medical examiners took a look at him and determined that due to his injuries, there was no way that Charles could have survived the initial impact of the crash. So, Andrea and Charles' family do believe it was his way of saying goodbye to the people that he loved.
Charles, get a different way.
What else was he gonna do?
I don't know, but that is so heartbreaking because they are thinking that he's alive.
Yeah, it's not easy. But that's part of the crisis apparition.
Call me later.
A lot of people think, though, that it happens really close to death because that's when you still have enough energy to try to...
I guess that makes sense.
That?
Like you're in two worlds, like two planes. Like,
Yep.
All right.
Okay, so it's well documented, obviously, but there's actually a number of psychologists and parapsychologists who have done like an incredible amount of research into this. And they basically go around to people who have experienced or who are currently experiencing this and try to give an explanation. Fever. I know. I'm sweating from this one.
I have a freaking fever.
It's heavy. One of the most famous research, they actually made a book out of it, but it was done like a really scientific research study, is called Phone Calls from the Dead, the results of a 2-year investigation into an incredible phenomenon. So study was carried out by Scott Rogo and Raymond Bayless. This was actually published way back in 1979.
Holy moly.
So what they set out to find out is, could the telephone actually be used on occasion as a channel for psychic communication between the living and the dead? So for 2 years, they interviewed people, and they determined that there are 3 types of calls you might receive. 1, people who had recently passed on or had been dead for years. Out of the blue, they call their family and friends. The second one is the receiving kind. So you call a house and somebody who is alive in other reality answers the phone.
Oh.
So like alternate dimension.
Universe or whatever, yeah.
And the last one, which I thought was really interesting and kind of reminded me of your Doppelgangers episode, but it's a conversation with 2 people who are very much alive, yet one party later on denies either making or receiving a call. So there are people who intended to call but never did, yet it seems that the physical call was actually made. So you put enough energy out there about making the call, and that person receives one.
It's kind of like an egregore in a way.
Yeah.
Okay.
So they end their study, they end the book with the following quote here.
But this was when? I'm so sorry. 70.
It was published in 1979, so it was 77 to 79 this study.
So cell phones aren't even a thing, really, right? No.
No.
When did the cell phone come out? 90s, 80s? 80s.
I think the 80s, but they were like big ass
Rare.
phones. Yeah.
Okay, so I'm just thinking this is literally, we're just talking, this book is just about landline.
Yes, correct.
Okay.
So they ended the book with the quote, and I thought it was kind of interesting, but the very idea might strike you as blatantly ridiculous, but after 2 years of research, we have come to the conclusion that these enigmatic phone calls do occur and are, indeed, probably more common than you might imagine. We have come to admit that the people who report these experiences are not perpetuating hoaxes, but have had genuine and sometimes shocking experiences, which most parapsychologists have been ignoring for years. This volume represents the result of a 2-year investigation into the phenomenon of phantom phone calls. We feel we have literally stumbled upon a new form of psychic communication. So another book that I want to buy, but this one is out of print, and the cheapest I could find it is $345.
Well, your birthday's coming up, so Denise.
Do not, if anybody buys me a book for $345,000 that is going to be a shelf item, most likely until I finally read it, no. Mm-mm.
All right, so you might get into this, but do we think that it's easier for phone calls that are wireless versus landline?
So most of the ones that I have heard were actually landline. There were a couple stories that were cell phone, but it seems there's something about that physical line that makes things easier. At least
okay, because I would think.
Save your theories.
I'm just thinking of like frequencies and stuff.
Yes. Save your theories, because I want to ask.
I think there's another movie like that. Oh, that's The Radio. Don't they talk to a ghost through the radio, like frequencies?
Yes, that was like before the Spirit Box was started. That was what's his name who did it originally.
Yeah, but there was a movie about it. Like he talks to his dead son or something.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Anyway.
Story number 1. We've got somebody who posted it on Reddit. We have no
Granny. Okay, I like that. You should have just ended with the granny story. Why would you do this to us?
Because I got another one that's wild. Story number 2. Some people have described it's probably the phone could have been malfunctioning after the crash, right?
Well, or he could have possibly, even though they said not likely, could have been trying to communicate. Maybe.
Story number 3 is from a name you may have heard before. Not a very famous guy at all. Dean Koontz. Does the name ring a bell?
Who is that?
Of course you have no idea. He's one of the most famous writers of all time. Has hundreds of books.
I don't read.
Okay,
tell me about him.
So Dean Koontz recounted this story and he was being interviewed for a biography. But he actually received one of these phantom calls and then later puts it in one of his thriller books. Changed it quite a bit though. So September 20th, 1988, Dean's working at his office when his phone rings. He answers and hears a woman's voice saying in a shocking and urgent manner, "Please be careful." Obviously, he asks her, "Who is this?" He gets no response. She just keeps repeating the same thing over and over again, but it just becomes more and more distant.
Just be careful?
Yep. Please be careful. So he said he sat and thought about it a long time, but the voice reminded him of his mother who died 2 decades prior. So he's quoted saying, "It was such a strange call. I don't claim that it was a ghost. I don't know what I believe. It certainly was odd. People report these kinds of events all the time, and it's always just struck me as interesting that everybody seems to have had an experience or two of this type of uncanny. Sometimes I believe that call was from my mother. Sometimes I believe that it was a very strange, serendipitous wrong number. I think you always have to have some skepticism about this, but it's comforting to think there may be a realm where the personality survives." However, 2 days after the phone call...
I was going to say, but something had to have happened.
Oh, yeah. 2 days after the phone call, Dean went to visit the facility where his father lived. His dad wasn't doing well. He was having behavioral problems. He had a lifelong history of alcoholism and mental illness, so he was in like an assisted living center. His dad had punched another resident, a man with a walker.
Oh, no.
So they asked Dean to come talk to him to see if they could help calm him down. Dean's father had apparently used his allowance to buy a fishing knife, which he sharpened, and then...
Wait, they have an allowance?
Apparently. And this was the 80s.
I guess they get to just leave as they please. Wait.
He must have, because he got this fishing knife. He sharpened it and oiled it so it would work like a switchblade. So Dean went to go talk to his father.
Oh, no.
And Dad pulls a knife on him.
Oh, no,
So
no.
a nurse hears the commotion. She immediately calls the police. So Dean is now wrestling the knife away from his father. He manages to do so without being harmed right as the police come. So Dean doesn't know the police are there. He steps out in the hallway with a knife.
No.
The cops know they're looking for somebody with a knife. So the cops immediately drop their guns and demand that he drop it. And he's just like, oh, it's not me you want, it's him in there. The police are like, not even listening. Drop the weapon.
Well, but also, are you going to believe like an old guy that's about to die?
Right.
Or...
So they kept coming closer. They have their guns drawn. And Dean goes, this is his direct quote. All of a sudden, I realized they were going to shoot me if I didn't drop the knife. They thought I was the perpetrator. So I dropped it and obeyed them. It was one of the worst moments of my life. My own stupidity almost got me killed. In that moment, though, Dean states that he thought about the phone call he received 2 days earlier, and he believes that whether it was his mother or not, it made him more vigilant in the coming days, and as a result, that call probably saved his life.
Number one.
Literally my next thing on here is, Kara, what are your theories? So hit me.
I don't know if I have a theory, but number one is I know it said his mom had died 2 decades prior to the call.
Mm-hmm.
So I get that's a long time, but I don't think you'd forget what your mom's voice sounded like.
It was distant and through static.
But I just...
And
feel like
he does at least mention that. Like sometimes I think it was, sometimes I don't.
Okay. But also, I don't think that it would have... I don't know. Like, yeah, I guess it could have been a wrong number, but no one just like would be like, please be careful, please be careful, please be careful, please be careful. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's just,
right.
That's weird.
It's very odd.
Number two, if your dad's near death, why did you even have to wrestle him?
Never said he was near death. Alcoholism and mentally ill.
Oh, he wasn't just, okay, I would guess
he was very mentally unstable.
Okay, I was thinking that was equating to he was dying.
No.
That makes sense. But also, I guess it is the 80s. He should not have been able to leave the facility.
No.
To buy a knife. I have no theories except for that it was his mother that called.
Not just on him in general, but like, what do you believe? Do you think that you can get phone calls from beyond the grave, or?
I really wish that I could tell you my personal experience with this.
So we can leave it as you believe.
Yes.
I tend to. I haven't had an experience personally, but there's thousands of these stories. Like, it was so hard to pick just 3 for this. But I did come across probably one of the most uncomfortable things in an article I have that's total side note to the story, and I'm going to keep it really short, but this is terrible.
Why do you want to tell us?
Because it's awful. A California AI company is doing some Black Mirror type of shit. I don't know if you've ever watched the show.
No.
So I came across this while researching the episode. Their goal is to let the dead communicate with the living. So they started this by essentially they would interview your family members who are close to passing for hours, ask them all sorts of questions about their life, their memory, their thoughts, their feelings, take their voice, make it into AI, and then basically give you a digital version of your loved one that you could have a conversation with and ask questions to, and it would give you answers based on their life. So this was the article that I found. The article was from years ago. I decided to look up the company. It is now a subscription-based app service. So you buy the app, you buy your subscription, it gives you a text prompt, you record all your answers, and you can share it with your family members for free. To me, one that has to interrupt the grieving process. And it just seems to be preying on people who do not handle grief well. And I think it is just super unethical. Like, even their ad video is an animated video of like a grandpa answering the questions. And then it shows like his animated grandson talking to the AI grandfather through the phone after. It is
That
very
is
uncomfortable.
wildly morbid.
And you have to pay for it. Like, if you're going to do
How
something
much
like
is
that,
it?
I didn't even make it to the pricing. Hold on. I'll
I'm just
find out real
curious if
quick.
it's like astronomical, because it has to be, right?
Starts at $3.99, but you can get unlimited recordings of stories for $7.99 a month.
Why don't we just talk to our loved ones now and then maybe record memories if that's something that you want?
Yeah, you don't need to have... So one person apparently was talking to his AI version of his mother throughout her whole funeral.
This is like Norman Bates shit.
It's just a wrong use of technology. But anyways, before we could go on about that forever.
We're going to get hate comments on this now.
Bring it. Honestly, I think this is just so wrong.
Like really, this already upsets me, the whole AI thing in itself.
Right. All right.
People are going to get in a lot of trouble.
We're just going to leave that one alone. We're going to finish it up with, if anyone's ever experienced calls from the dead, we want to hear from you. Write in. Tell us your experience there.
Well, maybe don't say like the dead. Maybe like
if you've received a call from your past loved ones, thank you, Kara. I can be a little insensitive sometimes.
Well, I don't know if it's insensitive, but it's just...
Or let us know if you download the Hereafter AI app.
I don't want to know if you did, because I don't want to be associated in any manner with somebody that did. I'm sorry.
Fair enough.
Dumb.
I can't stop saying it.
The comments are going to come now. Bring on the hate. Kara, how dare you say this AI? Let me talk to my granny.
Granny can call you through the phone. We've just covered that. You can get
Bring
a real
it
call.
on. Bring on the hate.
All right. That's it. That's what I got for you. You got anything you want to leave us with?
I hate it.
You hate everything I write.
No, I like it. I actually, this is a good one just because it's, I know it. I know it's real. But I really want to know if landline or what, like, I don't know. I think
let's make the vow right now. We'll figure it out. Whichever one of us dies first, the last action you do before you leave this plane of existence, we call the other person on their cell phone to see if it works or not.
No, I want it to be like you just like got over it. Like not over it, but like you're just doing okay. And then bam, motherfucker, I call you.
You're just as bad as Hereafter AI. Like I'm done grieving and you're like, remember me?
It's me. It's really me. It's not AI.
It's me.
It's
Jessica.
Me. I was going to say Mario.
All right. Let's let these people free. Let's get them out of here.
I went from like sweating profusely to now I'm going to like pee my pants.
And with that being said, feel free to follow us, leave us reviews, subscribe, all the fun stuff.
And with that being said, creep it real, yardballs.
Goodbye.
Bye.